March Madness usually means a load of basketball games back to back over the course of the month, but this March I did a different kind of madness. I attempted a new running challenge that I've never done before. Now I consider myself quite an active person, but outside of normal training I do also sit down quite a lot. I've done a lot of running in the past, but recently I have been majorly lacking. So here was the original challenge. Over the month of March I needed to run over 100 kilometers, and the rules for the challenge were this. Every single week I had to up the total volume for that week. So for example, if week 1 was 20 kilometers, week 2 had to be at least 21 kilometers. Now obviously there's only 4 weeks in March, that means on average it needed to be 25 kilometers per week, but I needed to bear in mind that every week I had to up the volume, so I needed to use that to my advantage. I knew this challenge was going to be a difficult one and I wasn't 100% sure that I could even complete it, but the real surprise is the results when it comes down to losing weight. Now there's the age-old debate, should you be running for weight loss? How does it help? What other sort of training should you be doing? But this challenge really did bring some surprising results when it comes to that, so stay tuned and find out what those were. So week 1 started off, first run for a while, easy run, 2.8 kilometers in the bag. Nothing to scream home about, but it got the ball rolling, which was the main idea for that run. In week 1, I actually managed to run every single day. Even some of the days were only a kilometer just to get that box ticked, and the longest run for that week was 6.5 kilometers. Took me up to a weekly total of 21.8 kilometers. Now, as I previously said, that's below the average, so I knew I had some work to do going into the second week.
Now the key with running training is mixing up the kinds of runs you do. Most of your run needs to be nice and slow, what they call zone 2. That should make about 8% of your runs. Then you can do maybe one a week if you have the time to like a pace set, so set a distance and see how fast you can do it. And then to help get even faster in that, is that pushing the threshold of where you can work to. That's where sprints come in. So today, as part of the running, we're doing some sprints around the park. Just did a few laps, little warm before, so we're probably looking at maybe 3.5 to 4 kilometers altogether today, including warm up, cool down home and the sprints. But yeah, include that mix in your running.
And the biggest challenge for the second week was I was actually on holiday. I was away in Portugal for a few days, but I'd committed to the challenge. It was in March, it needed to get done. In week 2, while I was away, most of the runs were between 1 and 3 kilometers. It was even St. Patrick's Day while I was there, so I had to fit runs in that day and the day after, even when I was a little bit hungover. But the worst thing about that trip was that it rained the whole time, and I'm usually a fair weather runner. I had to plan runs around the rain or run through the rain. But when I got back, I was way off the weekly target. I was nowhere near even beating week 1 score, and I still knew that I had to improve that weekly score to bump that average up to get towards that 100 kilometer mark.
Longest run of the month so far, currently over 10.5k. If I worked it out right, might be looking at 14, possibly 15k, but we'll see. Got a video coming up. Let's go.
When it comes to that sort of distance, it's not going to be a regular occurrence unless you're looking into long distance running training, whether you're working towards a half marathon, a full marathon or anything like that. The longest distance I would normally do is probably around the 10k mark, but even then it's probably less than that. But again, it's all down to your personal preference and what you're training towards. So the weekly total for week 2 was 24.4 kilometers. We were officially at the halfway mark of the challenge and we was on around 45 kilometers. But because of the stipulation of the challenge, I knew that every week I had to up, so being slightly below half at this point wasn't the end of the world. So heading into week 3, I knew I had to up the volume. I had to run more often and with slightly longer distances for every single run. But on the first day of the week, I didn't run at all, which obviously means that I was then chasing my tail, trying to catch up on the runs. But I did manage to run every single day after that, including an 11k on the last day of the week, pushing that weekly total up 100 meters over week 2, which means I completed the challenge of being able to up the volume every single week, and I got near enough the average of 25 kilometers that I needed for week 3. Now heading into the final week, obviously I had some serious work to do. There was 1 week left. We were sitting on 70.5 kilometers. I needed 29.5 kilometers in order to get that 100 kilometer in the 30 days in the 4 weeks. So I seriously had to up the game, up the mileage and do the highest volume I have done for years in a single week.
One day of the last week, running every day-ish in March challenge. Aiming for around 6.5k on the way, and then maybe 1 or 2k later on.
That is the 3rd longest run of the month that I have done, which is normally the aim when it comes to running and doing 1 longer run per week. But this week, obviously, I had some extras to do, so I needed to do more than that 1 long run, and that's exactly what I had to do.
26th of March, we're halfway through what's going to be around a 5k run, and that'll put us up to about 13, 14 for the week, I believe, maybe a bit more. But we're heading into towards the end of March, on track to get the 100k. Probably not by this Saturday, but by the 31st we'll definitely, hopefully get there. But let's find out if we do.
And the final run was exactly 6.5 kilometers to take me to the 29.5 kilometers for the week on the 29th of March, meaning on that morning I hit the 100 kilometer goal. But the real interesting thing here is not completing the challenge, it's the results that came from it. People normally get into running to build their fitness or to lose weight. Now, with everything considered, I did a lot of running that month, especially compared to the usual volume that I have been doing. Over the course of the month, I stayed around about the exact same weight, and the reason for that is clear. Yes, I upped my running volume. Yes, I was burning a lot of calories when it came to that running. But here's the things that came into play. When you run more, it usually ups your hunger. You eat more, you need to fuel your runs. I also had holiday for running there. I also had all the extra training at the gym that I still wanted to do and make progress there. All the extra volume of running means extra time, means trying to fit it in around your usual routine. Obviously, if you introduce something new, you're gonna have to find time to fit it in, or you're gonna have to focus on different priorities. But I wanted to do both. I wanted to still concentrate on my normal training and up the running volume. Yes, there were days where I sacrificed some of that normal training for extra running volume to beat the challenge, but it's not something I could sustain forever. So the main takeaway is, yes, you can up your running volume. Yes, I was getting slightly quicker, I was getting fitter. I could now do more volume because of the training I've done, but it doesn't necessarily correlate to losing weight. Your diet, your overtraining, your lifestyle is the areas that will impact the weight you are losing. There are huge benefits to running, and if you can, you should include it as part of your training, but it isn't going to equal exact weight loss. And you definitely don't need to do the sort of volumes that I was looking at. So there you have it. Challenge was completed. Results may not have been what you expected. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please subscribe, and I know you'll enjoy this video right here.